All right, we're back in regular session and we're moving on to the personnel report.
Motion to approve the personnel report.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion carries. Move on to old and new business, Ward.
Okay, I have nothing under old business. Under new business, there was an email sent to the sheriff from Commissioner Lukasevich about a motion that he would like to address today about putting the agenda on the county website within 24 hours prior to the meeting on Wednesday. So I don't know, did you have anything further to speak about that?
Yeah, just shortly, for the past 3 months or so, the Board of Commissioners, we've been placing our draft agenda on the county website in order that individuals who might want to make public comment can come and present on issues specific to the agenda. While we've had minimal interaction here over the past month or so because of the pandemic, nonetheless, you know, we did even actually receive an email request for public comment this past week. And again, it was partly due to the fact the individual was able to review the draft agenda and then email that comment to us. Again, extraordinary environment for which we accepted that mailing comment, but nonetheless. Therefore, in addition, the House of Representatives, just prior to its closure of its last session before the end of the year, passed and moved to the Senate a bill for consideration that actually requires posting of all agendas for all public meetings 24 hours prior. That was to be voted on just a short time ago. It got pushed a little bit further to the right due to the pandemic, but speaking to legislators, it will be voted upon, making it a requirement to post these agendas. So therefore, I recommend let's stay ahead of the curve. We've had a good experience with Board of Commissioner meeting agendas being posted in draft form 24 hours prior. So I make the motion that henceforth, specifically starting with our May meeting, we ensure that our agendas are posted 24 hours prior to increase the transparency and ensure more productive interaction with the public.
Is there any further discussion before we look for a second on the motion?
The only thing I would have to, add to this would be, I kind of looking at this, I thought that the initial, the top sheet that has the agenda and the rundown would be part of it, as well as the old and new business would pretty much be about, the only thing I think would be, to the benefit there. That's basically what we would be talking about anyway. Is there anything else that you thought, or is that basically what we're
No, what the commissioners have done, we've simply placed the draft agenda.
Yeah.
And that's what, that fits in line with the legislation that is out there. It didn't require additional. So we're just aligning with the legislation.
Right,
that's
and I
under
understand what the
consideration.
warden is saying. There are some confidential information
Right.
that comes out to the board members.
Right.
But it would basically be the first page of the agenda and maybe some additional details on old and new business that was appropriate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion out there. We're waiting for a second if there is one.
Second.
Okay, we have a second from the commissioner. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion carries.
Okay, second thing I have, there's been a lot of chatter going on and a lot of decisions being made by all the county facilities around Pennsylvania to stop county-to-county transfers of inmates. So, for court reasons, for reasons that maybe we have an individual that's doing a sentence here in Carbon County, but also has a detainer for Schuylkill County. They finished their sentence here in Carbon County, so normally we would call Schuylkill County to come get their inmate. They have, just about all the counties have filed letters with the state informing them that they are not going to do these transfers for anywhere from the next 2 weeks until indefinitely, depending on when this pandemic kind of slows down and we get back to business as usual. So I think it's something that we should follow suit to help protect the inmates and staff that we have at the facility, and kind of do the same thing. Just wondering whether or not, if the board agrees to do that, do we put a 2-week limit on it, or do we move it as indefinite, and that way we don't have to keep revisiting it?
I'm just going to make a comment, just in addition to what the warden says, is we have already received correspondence from the Department of Corrections that indicates that they have stopped transferring inmates. And just this morning, we received one from another one of our neighboring counties, Monroe County, that they have also stopped transferring inmates. I personally think it's a good idea. We already are in a position where we're not having court proceedings that would involve the transfer of inmates, so I think it would follow suit to at least suspend the inmate transfers until the end of the month in accordance with the local court ruling. I'll open it up for any other further discussion.
Well, would we have to come back into a meeting at the end of the month if we want to extend it?
Well, I think my recommendation would be to extend it until at least the court, in accordance with our local court rule, until the end of the month. And we can make a caveat that if the court extends it, then we can further extend our inmate transfer to be in accordance with the rules of the court.
So do we have the authority to do that as a prison board, though? Is that more of a court decision, or?
No, I think it would be administrative. I mean, I think that based on what's happening with other jurisdictions, I think they've already made those calls.
And every letter that's been sent out, Wayne, has been sent out by the wardens or directors of corrections from all the facilities. So it's just pretty much a short letter on letterhead that says, due to the COVID-19 crisis, Carbon County Correctional Facility will not be doing facility-to-facility transfers until, up through April 30th of 2020 to be reviewed, if the sanctions are, go forward longer. So, something like to that effect, so.
In a realistic scenario, obviously, if the court ordered the transportation of an inmate, we would have to follow the court order. The problem we would run into is we would call the other institution and they might not cooperate.
Yeah.
So we're gonna follow the rule of the court, but if we're unable to do it due to some action of some other agency, we're not gonna be able to fulfill it.
So let me comment if I can. Tim and the sheriff are absolutely correct. I'm not sure what his official title is, but Mr. Wetzel, who oversees the state system, had put out a notification that there is no transfers in or out of the state, as I understand it, during the next 2 weeks. I was unaware of the situation in Monroe County, although that makes sense to me, and I understand why Tim is recommending what he's recommending. It makes complete sense to me as well. But I do know that the Supreme Court has orders for the court to proceed with what they define as essential court functions, and then the court can handle non-essential court functions in the way it thinks it should be done. But to handle both those, both essential and non-essential court functions, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania strongly recommends that we use advanced communication technology to be able to do as many things as we can. So in the context of what we're talking about, I know in Carbon County we're trying to go forward on pleas and sentences of people who are currently incarcerated. And to do that, we're not requiring them to be brought in person to the court, but that it be done through video conferencing. And we're certainly capable of doing that in Carbon County, and we are doing it in Carbon County. And I know there's some scheduled for this Friday, and there's a number scheduled for next week. To my knowledge, most of the counties where we have inmates outside of Carbon County will now set up video conferencing with us to accommodate pleas and sentences rather than have them in person, to have them through video conferencing. Monroe County, I know, is agreeable to that. Lehigh County was one of the holdouts, but I was just told today that they're leaning now of allowing video conferencing also. So the reason I'm bringing all that up is because I have no opposition. In fact, I'm in agreement with what Tim's suggesting, but I would hope that if we do that, that we at least let other counties as well be able to video conference with our inmates if it involves an issue in Monroe County or Lehigh County, for instance.
Absolutely, Judge.
So I would, I guess, put that caveat out there, is that we at least then permit those other counties, not by prison-to-prison transfers, but at least be able to communicate with matters involving those outside counties with an inmate here through video conferencing if we can somehow arrange that.
Yeah,
The second thing, which is just sort of an outlier right now, and I'm not sure how it would be addressed, but I'm aware of it. We currently have an inmate from Lehigh County who's here in our Carbon County prison. I'm trying to think of his name. I think it's Brooke or something like that, but I'm not sure of that. He's been here in Carbon County for about a month. He's actually serving a sentence, I believe, in Lehigh County, but he was brought here to be sentenced in Carbon County, and he's now currently scheduled to be sentenced by Judge Surface this Friday. It's my understanding that once Judge Surface sentences him, it was his intent to have him transferred back to Lehigh County. I don't know how that's going to work, and I'm just letting Tim know of that because I don't know if Lehigh County will take him. I don't know if we want to transfer him at that point in time. Like I said, that's an outlier. That's an isolated case, but I am aware of that case. But in terms of the general recommendation Tim's making about having no transfers within the next 2 weeks or so, I also agree with him. Everything I've seen, that's done at the administrative level. It's not done pursuant to a court order, and I am in agreement with that recommendation. But again, I would hope that we at least, to the extent we can do so, is make our inmates available for video conferencing with other counties that have something to do with that inmate.
Yes, Judge, and just to continue on with what you said, we have had some video conferencing already with other counties, and are very willing to do it. Obviously, our courts are going to take precedence when we have stuff scheduled, and they'll have to schedule around us. But we have been utilizing both the video conference room as well as the fingerprint room, because we have two separate stations to be doing video conferencing. So we definitely have the capability to do it, and we will continue to do it, not only for Carbon, but for anybody else that requests it.
And that's what I'm saying. I know the other counties are cooperating with us in that respect, and I'm glad we're cooperating as well, so I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, so it appears as though, excuse me, we're in agreement for an extension. The only question that remains is the timetable and how to word that. So, as the warden said, Monroe County just did 2 weeks. We have a court order in place to suspend court operations until at least May 1st, with the court's option to extend that. Is there any suggestions for how to come up with a particular timetable for how long these transfers should be suspended?
Well, right now, I don't think it's going to change before our next meeting. And I would make a motion that we cease the transport of inmates between prisons and for court, unless court ordered for valid reasons, that we suspend the transports until our next meeting in May.
Okay, and we'll just put the caveat in there, unless further ordered by the court.
Right.
Okay? All right, anybody have any opposition to that?
You okay with that, Judge?
No, I am. I have no problem. And yeah, I mean, right now, Tony's 1 day off. Our actual order goes to May 1st, but the Supreme Court order goes to April 30th, and there's some, I don't know, rumors out there that the Supreme Court may likely extend their order from April 30th to the end of May, so we're not sure yet. So I'm fine with your recommendation.
Okay, all right. And then, Dan, does that require a motion?
Yeah, we should have a motion on the record.
Second.
I second.
Mark and seconded.
Okay, the motion has been made. It's seconded by Mark. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any opposition? Motion carries. Warden, would you take care of that? And
Absolutely.
I will help you with reviewing the letter.
Yeah, I mean, I probably 25 to 30 counties have already done it. I've seen different letters, so I'll draft something up and I'll send it out to the board just for final approval and before I send it out. Okay, the next thing I have is the e-pay bail system. I've had some email chatter with Greg Armstrong in regards to this. We have some training and stuff set up that they have done. We have that now. The sergeants have it, the deputy warden and myself. So we'll be reviewing this training on how to conduct the e-pay bail and go from there. So just that thing is moving forward, as well. Any questions or concerns on that?
Any questions about the e-pay bail system?
No.
Okay, next thing I have, also Greg had sent me as well as Rick, and I believe the district attorney and some other offices, a survey that PCCD has sent out in regards to COVID-19, and I guess it's kind of a survey to see about what type of monies we're spending, or if we have the money in our budgets and so forth. And I guess basically, there may be some grants coming along with this to pay for some things for future. I know speaking with Attorney Greek yesterday, he had filled his out and had talked, about maybe getting some laptops for having people to work at home if we have another crisis like this in the future. So, I mean, is this something that the board is comfortable with me filling out, or would they, I kind of looked at it a little bit, and I don't know what all the questions are, but I guess they're kind of asking, do you have the money in your budget to buy PPE and different things, or what would you need in the future? And there could be, I don't know, $10,000, $15,000 grants maybe given out, to different departments to cover this for down the road.
I could comment on that because I filled it out. Those things came to separate offices, so I filled one out for the sheriff's office. And it's just my opinion, Warden, that I think you have the information available to you to be able to complete that. Again, it's just a survey. It's not really a grant request. I think they're just looking for information, and I would default to the warden to be able to fill that out. If anybody has any issues with that, please so state. Otherwise, I'd recommend that the warden take care of that. All right? No opposition, Warden.
And then the final thing, I had the water system rehab project. I had sent that pretty large document out of what the water system control building equipment and piping rehabilitation project that was done by the engineers. So I don't know if Wayne or whoever wants to talk about that a little more. It looks like it's kind of a bid package or something, so to speak, for the work that needs to be done at the pump house.
Yeah. The packet you got, there's some minor changes in there, like the bid dates, etc., some corrections, spelling, some minor details, but other than that, basically it's not too much of a rehab, it's more of a replacement for a lot of the controls and piping in there, and even the valves. It costs more to take them apart, clean them, repaint them, and put them back in, and downtime for a water supply is certainly an issue. It is a long document, things, the legal end, and the thing we should, or I'm more concerned about, is the scope of the works and what is being done there. From what I can see, I think Mike did a pretty good job with the pictures and pointing out exactly which valves, etc., what have to be replaced. He mentions the future possibility of water treatment once we get to the second well and get that issue straightened out for the additional water supply or a backup. And even in the document it talks about the control system would alternate wells each day and pumps, so we're not working one all the time. And it'd have a good opportunity to replenish the water supply in a drought situation. So it's a 102-page document. So like I say, I've read through the whole thing. I know Ellie has, and I'm sure Dan did the legal part, etc. And I don't know who else has had the opportunity, but
I reviewed it as well.
Yeah. The only thing I don't recall, if it required a pre-bid meeting on this.
yes,
Okay, it did.
it does. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was mandatory or not. I just found because
It's
it was
not
so
mandatory.
complex, You
Yeah.
know, it's almost like I'd hate the scope of work, want to ensure they truly understand the scope of the project to minimize the potential of cost overruns or having to come back. That was
We
my only thought.
do, it does say in there, I think I saw somewhere, it is non-mandatory pre-bid meeting. Am I correct on that, Ellie, or Dan? I'm pretty
Yes,
sure
they,
it was,
they usually do non-mandatory anymore for bid meetings.
yeah.
I think because they get more of a response with non-mandatory than they
Okay.
do with
Yeah.
mandatory.
So there are good pictures and graphics there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything further on that topic?
Last thing I had, and I didn't know if we wanted to speak about that under new business or under correspondence, but we had the email that was sent from Representative Heffley's office in regards to the concern.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what part we wanted to speak about that under.
I did respond to it. I talked to Mark Lesnick to get a count. I didn't bring it in with me, but I think he said I forget how much safety equipment he did send to the prison.
Yes.
As well, if they needed more, they are to come over to the EMA office. He will give them whatever supplies they needed. I know you had worked on a purchase order for additional masks, and I don't know what all.
Yeah, we, the company that we were originally going to go through at first said that they would go by our terms, and then at the last minute, they told Jen down in purchasing that they wanted payment up front. So we ended up going through WB Mason now. We have another 300 masks ordered through WB Mason that we should be getting shortly. But, you know, we still have a fairly good supply up at the facility.
Okay, so just for context, for anyone who's viewing who didn't know about this, so there was an anonymous complaint made about the number of PPEs available to correctional officers, and as we heard here, that it's being addressed.
Yes.
And it's a good place to bring it up because I had received a call previously on it, and I knew they had the masks available, and it's the public, I don't know if it's families or who are not getting the proper information or misconception. Maybe they don't see all the officers or people wearing the mask and that's another issue though, whether we make it mandatory or not. But the equipment's there, and we want to get that word out. Equipment's there for them to use. We're not hiding anything. It's available.
Yes.
So Warden, is the policy mandatory wear of masks or not?
No, it's not, it hasn't been made, mandatory or just going by the CDC guidelines where they are recommending, but, we're recommending to staff to wear them. One issue I have had with one staff member is that they get extremely claustrophobic with having a mask on.
What's the Department of Corrections saying in regards to mask wearing?
That I'd have to defer to the
I'm
warden.
just-
I think
Yeah.
the Department of Corrections is making all their staff wear masks.
Yeah, it would seem to me, again, the most vulnerable population are those prisoners. The individuals interacting with the general public more likely are the corrections officer. So I do believe we owe it for our own concerns and for those of the inmates that we seriously consider, if not right now, modify our policy to make mask wear mandatory based upon any constraints of lack of or insufficient PPE that we have. I mean, for consideration and conversation here.
Well, obviously, by my appearance today, I'm going to agree with you, Commissioner. I think that that's something we should consider. Obviously, we've taken numerous steps
Yeah.
to prevent the transmission of the disease by inmate transfer, and now we have to be concerned about correctional officer transfer. And I would agree that the way to slow that down, if not eliminate it, would be to require COs and anyone having contact with inmates to have facial coverings of some type. And we'll leave it out there for the board to either disagree or agree.
I agree with it. If they were going to be in contact with any of the inmates, they should have it on at that point in time.
Okay. Is there any opposition by any board members to changing our policy requiring during this pandemic to have COs wear masks when they interact with inmates?
Good idea.
Okay. I think we're in agreement, Warden, to change our policy.
I will take care of that, and that will be put in effect as soon as I get back.
Okay. Anything else, Warden?
That is all I had.
Okay. We'll now move on to correspondence, other than what the Warden talked about. Is there any correspondence we need to deal with today?
No.
Nothing? Council, anything on the solicitor's report?
Nothing additional.
Okay. Is there any further business we need to discuss today? Okay, there are none, so we will stand adjourned. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
You too.